Hello, everyone. Ray Newman's here with Farewell, My King podcast. Wade J. Carey on the other side. What's up, Wade?
Hey, what's going on?
Man, the lyrical genius of writing Christian novels is with us again. So, I've got today's going to be a great day. We're recording this on a Sunday, so hopefully everyone's having a good day. We are probably going to have this posted. Yeah, sometimes it might be sometime next month. But how do you get a hold of Wade in this ministry? Yeah, WadeJCarey.com. That's his website. Facebook is facebook.com/Wade J. Carey author. This is where we do everything from giving away books to giving away chapters that you can read or paragraphs. So jump in there. If you've got anything that you want to talk to us about directly, farewellmyking@gmail. Just send us an email, and we publish this on two different places. This will go on the YouTube machine and Spotify. So our YouTube account is just at Farewell My King. If you search for that, then we will you'll find us, and you'll get this sooner than what it will be on the Facebook page. So
Sure enough.
So today, what do we have today? It's going to be, let's talk about books.
Let's do it.
My favorite subject. Today's book is close to everyone's heart that knows Wade, including myself. Lessons I've learned from a little black dog. Okay, so this was, I'm going to let Wade take the microphone here, but I just, friendly facts on this Sunday afternoon would be, on average, okay, 33% of households globally, and we're not just talking about the good old US of A, has a dog. And only 23% has a cat. There's about a 14% ratio of people having other like reptile pets or fish and stuff like that, but predominantly man's best friend, or woman and man's best friend, is the pupper dog. So
right.
today we're going to be talking about this book. And I'm going to let Wade have a lot of this. I'm going to flip the slide here. On this slide, this is the back of the book. A small description of what's going on in the book. So Wade, the who, what, when, where, and how. What happened? How this book come apart? Where did you start, and where do you see this going in the future?
Well, there's a connection point. I like to look at, as the big picture first. There's a connection point between us and the natural world that God made for us. And it's interesting to step back and look at the relationship that mankind has with animals, because I believe, at least from my worldview, and I'm talking about a biblical worldview, not a religious worldview. God made us to have dominion and to serve and to love sacrificially, as shepherds of this world. And so my wife found a little black dog in the middle of the road back in 2012, and I detail that in the story. And 6 years later, little dog Cricket, she got a heart issue, and we had to take her down to the University of Georgia Veterinary College, and we were able to keep her on meds that gave us another close to 3 years before her little heart finally gave out. She had lower ventricular tachycardia, and her heart would beat fast. Just one of those chambers, wasn't beating right. So it was an incredibly exhaustive trial period. We learned an awful lot, and I started writing this book because I knew there was a story there. While Cricket was sick, and I wrote about half of it, and then just felt the pull from the Lord to just stop. And then I went on, and I helped another dear friend who has a ministry, launch her first couple of books. And then Cricket passed in early February of 2021. And that's when I finished the book. I knew that it was time, that's when the grief part set in. So the book is essentially set up in 3 parts. The first part is many lessons I learned from going through this trial period. And unfortunately, it's really just a natural part of life that this part of our existence is, marked by trials and tribulations to mold our soul. Part of it is to draw us closer to the Lord. Some of it's our sanctification, and some of it is later. If someone rejects the Lord, then it's going to be part of their condemnation. So everybody and everything is passing through this world. It's not a permanent world. There is a permanent world to come. And so I was able to, in the second half of the book, pour out my grief. So the first part is, lessons I had learned during the process. The second is I interviewed several people that I know that are animal lovers, including yourself.
Yep.
Just to get some thoughts, because it's like there's a universal thing going on here, and people who are believers and even non-believers, a lot of non-believers just love animals. And so I think it's naturally intrinsic in human nature, regardless of our spiritual beliefs. It's intrinsic in our human nature to love these animals, and most people do throughout history. So I explored that through several interviews, and then the third was really just me pouring out my grief and just trying to lay bare some of the theological fake news having to do with our relationship with animals, trying to separate out what people will say is true, but it's really just man-made religion. And all in all, I mean, Ray, I've had people tell me that they started reading the book and had to stop because they were crying. And I mean, it evokes so much emotion because we who are animal lovers, which is I think most people, um, you know, these are incredibly powerful emotions. And so the essential goal of this book, and it's not a book about sadness. This isn't like a Marley and Me and all of that. To me, this is a book of hope, and the hope that I believe is given to us by Jesus Christ through this natural world and through the promises of Scripture, without the encumbrance of religion. When you remove all the religion, the man-made religion, your faith looks completely different. So that's really what it is. It's encouraging. You can sense my grief. I'm proud to say, as I mentioned on a couple of the other books, this was entered in the National Writer's Digest book writing contest a couple of years ago, and it came back with a perfect score. And it didn't win, and I don't know if I'll ever win in that because it's a secular group, I believe. But and I'm explicitly writing from a Christian perspective. But here's the thing: is there's a lot in here for someone who doesn't really share my spiritual beliefs, because we have a connection point, and that's what's missing in today's society through the divisiveness of the political process. Is people find ways to hate each other instead of unite together. We support personally several animal rescue groups, and I don't really care what their beliefs are because we have this in common. My hope is always that people will find through the words that I share some encouragement in their faith, finding their faith or strengthening their faith. But that's not a requirement to be my friend. It's not a requirement to read this book. So I'll stop there and see if where we want to go from there. But that's kind of an overview of this book.
Well, and that's what I was looking for, and just let the listener know, because Wade might not be able to walk into that place, is that this was a long, long time of very regimented meals, very regimented medicine. Most people would have probably put this dog down a long time before this. So this was
No doubt
a very servant type system that you set up, which took a lot of part of your free time and travel time. And a lot of people don't know is that Wade could probably right now live in a hotel room for about 2 or 3 years because of all the Marriott and hotel points he has. He can fly first class because he spent his entire life traveling, and spent the good part of 3 years me walking with him. I mean, I've walked into your house before, and this little dog Cricket has been up on the edge of that couch chewing me out because I haven't been giving her attention. So it was a loss for a lot of people, and I just there's people out there that are dealing with sick family members and sick children, or their animals are sick. And just recently, I think there's been some stuff going on, near your wife and stuff. But this was, this dog died in your arms.
Yeah, I had prayed that I would be there, because to me, if you're going to send a beloved ambassador, into eternity, I believe very strongly with their creator, then you need to be there, because you are their entire world, and they don't have the lifespans that human beings have. And as we're sitting here now, it's just amazing to me that if you just look at the cover of the book, that picture was not a professionally made picture. My wife Elissa just took that picture, and when I saw it, just the lighting is just it's about
Perfect.
as perfect can be.
It's perfect. And when I look at it, I see, like I said, that that very boisterous little dog sitting on the edge of your couch, screaming at me, say, "Hey, come here." You
Oh
need,
yeah.
or trying to jump up to get in our lap while we were sitting there having coffee. So I've got a picture up here, and when I think of, my animal, Grayson, my dog, anyone who follows my social media, that's pretty much all I post on it. But this little picture over here of a family with their dog just watching the sunset. And I think it's, they're part of, we take them on as, a responsibility, but then they give us something that, Grayson and he's in the book, part of the redemption. And we're going to get into that in just a little bit. But I have up here 1,066 days. What is that about, Wade?
Well, I'll jump right into that in a second. I want to just talk about this picture you put up, because as I look at it, I see something more than just a picture. First off, I see a lot of godly values. First, I see family. I see, a beautiful animal that we are supposed to take care of. I see the nature. I see the sky, the sun in the sky. I mean, there's so much to love about that. But if somebody doesn't necessarily want to read the whole book, I believe I have it online, and certainly if someone wants to contact me, will email it. This is a pivotal chapter in the book. This is into the grief period, and from the day that Cricket got sick, we took her to the University of Georgia, veterinary college. We had 1,066 days, and I interviewed in the book Dr. Samantha Salmon, who was doing her residency there. Just wonderful, outstanding, animal cardiologist. And so, we got almost 3 years, with Cricket. So I knew when we had her in there, I mean, I believe most dogs would have died. And I also believe that most people would have put their dog down, but we hung in there. It was an unbelievably expensive, it took time, but God molds our hearts through the difficult situations that we have, and it makes us stronger. It makes us better people, makes us better disciples. It makes us focus outwardly on Him and our neighbor, and our family job to take care of this world. And so that's the irony in life, is that these painful things, if we allow them, they will train us to be better at what God created us to do, which is not focus on ourselves exclusively. But so we had these 1,066 days from when she got diagnosed to the day that she, I was, working. I was getting ready to let her outside. I just fed them, and she was getting medicines 4 times a day. And, she had a couple little difficulties, and she just started choking, and I picked her up and was trying to put medicine in her mouth. And she had this big loud squeak, and she died right there in my arms. And I knew what was happening. I mean, I just immediately, when I'm hit with crisis, I'm going right to Jesus. I mean, I'm just begging Him, not today, Lord, not today, Lord. No, 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 not today. But this was a day He wanted to call her back into His kingdom and out of this temporary one. And, I'll never be the same, but I am grateful to have been there when it happened versus walk in and she's just gone. And that's what we're faced with for 3 years is, you roll over in bed and, you put your hand on her and hope that there's a heart still beating. It was just, agonizing, because the heart doesn't really know the difference between the nurturing we give, other humans and the nurturing we give animals. The heart doesn't know the difference. The head may know the difference, but they're not in competition with one another. And that's my problem with this whole thing, mankind and our relationship with animals and how God fits into the picture is, why in the world are we making it a contest? Why in the world are we trying to shove animals into the same salvific process that humans have to go through when they have clearly no business being there? Jesus didn't die. He didn't spill his holy blood on Calvary to save the animals, because he didn't have to. They're not made in his image. They don't know right and wrong like we do. They have no choice. And Romans 8 makes it clear that, the curse of sin and death and pain and suffering was thrust onto all of creation against its will. And if we're talking about creation, there's no better animated part of creation than these land animals that we love, including dogs and cats and horses and whatnot, that were made on the same day God made us. If you read between the lines and infer, what the Creator did, you can see very importantly how these animals fit into it, and how he can use them. I'm talking about, you go back hundreds of years and you're seeing, people in Revolutionary War America talking about that. I mean, it's just, this goes all the way back, in time. So from a big picture perspective, I don't think there's any question that animals have this purpose. And I just can't I just can't understand the super religious nonsense that they don't have a soul and, they're going to be annihilated. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense from any perspective of the Creator God. And there's a lot of people who will say that, but that's what man-made religion is, Ray. People say a bunch of stuff and they say it over and over and over, and it becomes true, even though it's not backed up by the Bible.
Yeah, I mean, and man, that's a fishing expedition that we could go for a long time on. Like one of the pastors we listen to, evil likes to devise. He counterfeits. He can't do evil. Satan can't do what Jesus did or can get that, so he just counterfeits his process. And sometimes that leaks into the pulpit, sometimes that leaks into the four-wall church, and it leaks into our social, and we almost start writing the rules for it. So I'm going to hold on to the mic for just a second, because I'm about to change this, and I know I've got a lot of pictures up here. So if you're watching on YouTube, then you can see Wade actually made a comment about some of the places that we, me and him both share some commonality. I want to give a shout out to Pup and Cat Co. That's actually where on the bottom right-hand side, you see my boy Grayson. That's the Sir Hoggenstein. That name was given to him by yours truly, the pen wizard of all things novels. And Grayson, he's in your book. He's in the redemption, because Off the Chain USA was the one who actually took him out of a chained situation in Houston. Pup and Cat took him in after that surrender, and he's been my guy ever since. He's been the employee of the month for the last 12 months, because I work from home. But on this picture also, I have the elders. Okay. This is the elders of the garden. This is all the pups that I could get pictures of Wade. And then you see the new addition over there on the edge of the couch, acting like he's a small dog. Got taught that by the little dogs, is Wally. And Wally shows up on the Facebook page with Wally Wednesday. The month of September, we will be highlighting this book as the book of the month, and you will get to learn a lot about Wally's shenanigans and some of the lessons he learned from the elders of Wade's house. I already told you we could go for about a couple hours on this, but this picture of Grayson, I was like, well, this is going to say everything. Grayson didn't know how to walk on hardwood floors, didn't know how to go upstairs, didn't know how to do a lot of things. we had to do, we had to take him in for some scans, and evidently he'd been shot with BB guns because he's got pellets in him and stuff. So, people treat their animals so cruelly sometimes. But now I'm sitting here talking to you, and you spent 1,066 days with a dog that had a terminal diagnosis. And I think this is a place where we can say we all are terminal. We all have a diagnosis. And it is these pictures like this. And I'm going to give you a few minutes just to introduce us to all the people, all the dogs in this picture. Man, you've done a good job at shepherding, Wade. And this book has given all of them a voice. But why don't you take us through who we're looking at here? There's a couple different pups in here. So who's all in the frame? I've already introduced Grayson. You can do the other ones.
So what we've got here is, and first I want to, thank you for putting up, when my wife and I got married in 2001, we moved from Jacksonville. We had been supporting the Jacksonville Humane Society, which has been around for a while. And we moved up here, and I wanted to find, another local. So the Pup and Cat Co. of Winder, Georgia, found them. And, I wish I could do more, but we give to them pretty regularly. And, my little schnauzers that are in there in the picture, they're with us, and I lost both of them in 2008, but we moved here in 2001. They were there, and we lived, nearby. So, then later on, with Grayson, I think Pup and Cat had rescued him from the off the chain group.
Yep.
And he went from a damaged creature to your best buddy. It's just, it's absolutely incredible. So what's interesting now is, our Bella, our Boston Terrier, she passed, about 10 months after Cricket did. And so we still have Molly, who's on the couch there with Wally. But what's interesting is a year and a half ago, my wife was down visiting family in Jacksonville. They stopped into the Jacksonville Humane Society, and it came full circle. And this, big goober named Wally, or we've named him Wally.
Yeah.
He shows up. He had showed up 45 minutes prior to them arriving. And so we adopted him and got him up here with us in Georgia and that. So it's, all these things have come full circle. So, we still support Pup and Cat Co. We're big fans of, and my wife particularly supports the Rescue Ranch Pups out of Rutledge, Georgia. Ladies down there just do a phenomenal job and so much great work sourcing food for animals and that. So to me, this is noble. This is incredibly important work for what I believe, God created us for, which is to care for this world in the ways that He calls us to do it. And it's going to look different for different people, but these are incredibly important things, and so many selfless people in these rescue groups do such unbelievably good work. And I hope to be able to increase support one day to the point where, I don't want any animal to be euthanized. That there's nothing that breaks my heart more than that. A dog wagging its tail going down the hall and going down the hall to be put down. It just oh my gosh. I can't even look at it because I'm getting soft in my old age.
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you this. Besides the two schnauzers, that was before my time with you. I have had very close contact with all these. Besides Wally, I haven't met Wally face to face, even though I do commentate for him every now and then on the Facebook page. These dogs have sat in my lap. They've pressured me into opening the back door 500 times for them, just like Grayson does to me now. And when I was putting this slide together, I was like, man, we're doing a podcast. I don't know if I should do this, but I was like, no, this is exactly what this book's about, is that it was extremely painful. You called me after Cricket passed, and, just hysterical. Because you just lost a family member. And I can remember just being just as helpless feeling when you were talking to me on the phone as when someone's called me, told me their dad had passed away or their cousin had passed away. It just the loss that we have to endure in this world is so difficult. But I can look at these pictures, Wade, and it makes me so happy. I mean, this look that Cricket is giving me, I know exactly what Belle's trying to do. She's trying to get the food. I know what they're doing because I've been there with them. And man, I just, not a lot of people are brave enough to share this message, and not a lot of people really want to jump into this side of the pool. But for a listener that, let's just say maybe you're not 100% on board with all the stuff about the Bible we talk, this is the reason why we do the podcast, is because there's a massive gap between what we believe and what most people would call our Christian religion. We are the stewards, the shepherds, and the providers for God's creation, and we're supposed to take care of it. And Wade has done that, and he's modeled that even with Wally, because Wally came from 45 minutes and then taking a 6-hour trip, and there was a lot of problems that you had to work through with Wally to get him to calm down and so this is work, just like people are work. It just takes a little time. So man, I appreciate you, Wade. I mean, I this was tough. It was even tough for me to put it together because I wanted to put every picture I had of all these dogs up here, and I was like, man, we'll never get it, But explain to us about, I know you do some interviews. Could you give us a little like run through of what these interviews are about as we start to wrap all, because you interviewed certain people. I know you interviewed me about Grayson and the redemption fact, and we're going to get into that on the Facebook page, but maybe give a shout out to the other people who were interviewed and what their situation was.
Well, I interviewed just several people that I felt were had something positive to say, and I intentionally just interviewed regular folks nobody's ever heard of because I didn't want this to become let me see with this celebrity, that celebrity. I wanted to talk to people who I actually have dialogue with and can have discussions with, and just see what they had to say. That felt like very strongly what God wanted me to do. And early in I've written about dogs in most of my novels. And in the early days, back in 2009, 10, when I started all this, it was a daunting situation to stand up against this mountain of man-made religion that dogs don't have souls and that kind of stuff. And I knew it was wrong, and I would work around the edges of it. But this book made me just, act sort of like an archer, and just, I've got my bow and I'm going right for the middle of the bullseye. And when when you look at situations without the encumbrance of religion, for example, Acts 3:21 and Matthew 19:28 both talk about God restoring and redeeming, everything. It's a renewal of all things, as was promised. Well, a universal statement like that is pretty massive at the renewal of all things. And when you start combining some of the basic attributes of God, like God cannot lose, we talked about on a previous podcast, and there's nothing in the Bible that even hints at annihilation of anything in God's creation. So everything is going to continue because God can't lose to Satan. And so to go back, I wanted to talk to people who were just around me that I think had a good message. I didn't want to pursue anything that would look like I'm trying to pursue celebrities and that kind of stuff, because I mean, to me, it's more valuable people that I know. That's who I care about. I mean, I don't mourn when a celebrity passes, more than I mourn somebody that I know. So all these things just combined into something that I think is a stiff punch in the nose to man-made religion, but an incredible amount of hope for those who love animals. And what I'm really talking about here is, I state in that 1066 days chapter, which again, I'll be glad to send to anybody. I mean, that's really the whole heart of the book. it's a twofold goal with this book. Number one is people who are not believers, but who love animals. I want to, if they love the animals, I want to swim upstream and introduce them to the Creator without all this religious nonsense, and get them to see the one thing that God reveals to us right off the bat is that He's a proud Creator. He's this incredible artist, and Genesis 1, He's painting this canvas, and he's filling it with everything that reflects Him. And so people who are not believers who love animals, I want to introduce them to the Creator, with the hopes that they're going to find out who He is. And number two is there's a lot of Christians who have been fed a lot of religious nonsense that need to understand that their love of animals is natural. And I think a lot of Christians feel guilty for how much they love animals. It's like, God made you that way. Why would you feel guilty to be taking care of the family business that we're going to be doing for eternity? It's just absolute absurdity. And I finally got my feet under me enough to take this issue on, because again, I knew this was coming, but I wasn't ready for it. Going through this with this little black dog prepared me for it. And I can feel God sort of like, popping my shoulder pads. Get out there, big boy, get out there and do this. But he had it where I was writing half of it, then stopped, and then boom, had to get in, because the reader has to feel my grief so that they can connect with it, because anyone who has loved an animal and lost an animal is going to be able to understand that helplessness that we feel. So again, I tackle certain things. For example, a couple of them is, society will feed us absolute unbiblical nonsense, and we don't even know it half the time. For example, Disney will come out with this circle of life. Well, I can't think of anything more foolish than that. Life isn't a circle. You can't be happy with, becoming ashes and, food growing up out of you, the ashes of your, There's no such thing as a circle of life. Life is a straight line. It's from the imperfect world now to the perfect world coming. And I also go a lot more diplomatically into, you hear about the Rainbow Bridge. Rainbow Bridge is a sentiment that I think evolved out of people knowing that animals are much more important than this animals don't have souls fake news. And people innately feel that. Instinctively, deep down, we understand that the goodness that we have with that, comes from outside of us. So I go after that, because the Rainbow Bridge is a nice sentiment, but it doesn't have anything substantial to put your hope on. But
it's a basket with no bottom.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But the good news is it's so much bigger than that, is the redemption. It's this renewal of all things. And when, just like God promised, He's not going to lose anything to Satan, especially this wonderful love that we have of these animals. And I know I'm going to see Cricket again, and she's not going to have tachycardia when I see her again. But in the meantime, I've got a job to do, which is to continue to write books like this.
Well, I'll tell you, Wade, as we close up here, I really do appreciate this book. And, I know there's going to be some bandwagons. We got to care about people more than we do animals. And I agree with that. I'm firmly saying that we need to stand in the gospel with every human being, but we need to live out the gospel life when it comes to taking care of these animals. So if you're watching this on the YouTube machine, you see a big old T-Rex QR code up here, which is my favorite. This is a direct link to the page to buy this book. And the only reason why you haven't bought it yet is because we haven't shut up, so you can do this little QR code and make it happen. So you can search Wade's novels on Amazon. All you got to do is just type in Wade J. Carey. All his books come up. Jump onto his website, take a look, see what his stories there, wadejcarey.com. Facebook page is a good place to stop. We do a book giveaway on Fridays. We give you some budgeting advice. We talk about a certain book every month. So Wade J. Carey, author, on the Facebook machine. And hey, send us these comments, questions, at farewellmyking@gmail.com. And then, of course, YouTube and Spotify. Both have video and audio options. We're doing the best we can. We run this off a shoestring budget and a prayer. So, all we're looking for is, hey, subscribe, participate, give us some feedback. What do you want to hear? Because we're going to get through these books. Wade's got a lot of them, so it's going to take us some time to get through them. But once we get through, we have a whole bunch more topics that we're going to be going through, and one's probably coming soon. About some very slippery slopes that the Christian population is falling down when it comes to politics. We do have a not politics, toss up part. So, hey, we just got about a minute left. Wade, what you want to close with us?
I'm going to close with this, Ray. Thank you. This Little Black Dog book is about $10. It's a couple of lattes from Starbucks. And people can contact us if you want to read it and you can't afford it. Then contact us. We're in the business of getting this book into people's hands, because all of my books and all nearly 750,000 peer-reviewed books across the 10 publications, they're all about hope. And this is just another angle for that hope. When doing the budgeting, it's about hope. So September, stay tuned for ebook giveaways. This book may be involved in that. I don't know. You have to pay attention and stay tuned. But we're in the business of encouraging people. We're in the business of trying to show them the glory of God. We're not religious guys. We're man-made religions dominating. We're here about the gospel. We're here about the Bible. We're here about providing hope in everything that we do. So check us out and contact us. We'd love to have some fellowship.
Amen. Y'all have a good one. And this is it from Farewell, My King, the podcast that's in your face. Talk to you later, Wade.
See you next time.
Bye.